All right, it is Monday, April 7th at 6:45. We'll call to order the City of Brainerd Personnel and Finance Committee meeting, and we'll start with introductions.
Kelly Bevins, City Council.
Nick Broyle, City Administrator.
Connie Hillman, Finance Director.
Chris Schubert, HR Director.
Kevin Stooning, Alderman at Large.
Teresa Burke, Brainerd Dispatch.
Jesse Dean, City Engineer.
Jeff
Chesak, City Council.
James Cromwell, Community Development Director.
Nate Olin, Weisenegger, Eagle Insurance.
And Gabe Johnson, Chair of the committee. We have 9 items. We're going to switch a couple around real quick here. And what is listed as item number 5, we are going to move up to the top of the agenda. The rest of the order will stay in place. So that brings us to the accept the resignation of Public Utilities Director Christopher Evans and discuss interim position. Chris.
On March 24th, Public Utilities Director Chris Evans submitted his resignation letter, and his last working day was last Friday, April 4th. In your packet is email correspondence from Councilmember Chesak regarding this matter. A side note, staff had contacted GMP Consultants to discuss its guarantee that GMP would conduct one additional Public Utilities Director recruitment for the cost of the expenses only. GMP typically requires that the city would request recruitment assistance within 6 months of Mr. Evans' departure. In addition, with his resignation, we would ask to have an interim Public Utilities Director, and that position would need to be appointed while this position is vacant. We do not have a formal policy regarding the selection or compensation for an interim position, as that is typically accomplished via an employment agreement. So we'll need to discuss if there's options for that as well. Staff's recommended actions are a motion to accept the resignation of Mr. Evans effective April 4th, approve the appointment of an interim Public Utilities Director, and third, to authorize staff to work with GMP Consultants to hire a full-time Public Utilities Director.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I guess I'll allow it, but that doesn't address the appointment of the interim Public Utility Director or when we start working with GMP Consultants.
I thought you were just referring to item 1.
Just item 1. We have a motion and a second to accept the resignation. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So next up, we need to talk about whether we appoint an interim Public Utilities Director right now, or if we don't need to, or how do we move forward?
I can, you're looking at me, I'll answer. I think we do need an interim, but I don't think we need one today. I think we've got great employees out there. I think they can operate the public utilities for a time. I don't think that's the right way to do it, but I really think I think we've got a lot of other questions to answer. We're talking about integration of finance. We're talking about integration and expanding public works. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. I think it would be best to answer those questions before we get to number 3. So an interim probably makes the most sense. But I have absolutely no idea. I mean, outside of our eternal interim every guy, Patrick Wasso, and I understand he's been discussed.
Well, he's planning a wedding now.
Yeah, I know, I saw that. Good for him.
He's doing what?
But we've had married guys before. Like, I mean, it's okay.
It does work.
I don't know who, Mr. Chair, my recommendation would be, we look for an interim guy and hold off on number 3 until we know what we're doing as a whole team.
Is that a motion?
It is a motion.
I'll second that then.
Okay, so we're holding off on appointing an interim tonight.
No, well, unless we have somebody.
Right. Well, and I don't, but I was gonna say, I think we should look for a contract type interim from the outside to come in to operate for 6 months to a year while we answer the questions that you brought up.
We sure could.
Do we need to put a timetable on the interim? Because the longer we go without an interim, then why do we need one? Why do we need anything?
Well,
So do you want to put a timetable on your motion?
Well, I'd start the process for looking for an interim public utilities director now.
But I mean,
if somebody knew somebody
have one appointed
now.
within 30 days, 45 days, or that's what I'm going after. I don't.
Pardon me?
I mean, do we want to put a timetable to say, let's find an interim within 30 days or within 45 days, or what do you want to do? Or do we even need that?
I don't think we need that at this point.
So
That
we're
would be
just-
part of the interim contract.
So we're just directing staff to find an interim public utility
Okay,
director.
I can.
Yeah,
And in the meantime, staff would be reporting to Mr.
Royals. Yep, that's part of my motion.
Okay, I agree with that.
So the division heads, is that what they're called?
Yep,
Division managers would be reporting to.
which they kind of do anyway.
Yeah,
He's the head of the pyramid anyway, so
Okay.
does that make sense?
that makes sense to me. I can repeat that upstairs.
Okay,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Okay, that'll bring us back up to the top here, and that is discuss proposed changes to the special assessment policy. Mike, Jesse,
Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, per the direction from the council, we've tried to reflect the wishes of the council and put a draft together here with changes to the special assessment policy. So we've since now put a draft together that splits the deferment sections into two sections, hardship and then unimproved property section deferments. So just to kind of summarize the proposed changes in the two sections. So the first one we'll go over is hardships. So we clarified that kind of our typical practice is a 10-year assessment period, very similar to what we have for our current practice in the hardships. So we would assess interest over a 10-year period for hardships. This can be changed on a project-by-project basis if we want to, but this is just for staff's guidance, essentially where we default to. We wanted to get some thoughts from the council. We removed the statement starting with after 10 years. So right now, after 10 years, we don't require folks to come back and reapply for the deferment. It just essentially becomes permanently deferred in perpetuity until the property is sold. I kind of want them to continue to return, to continue to apply for those deferments, just in case circumstances may have changed after 10 years. We don't necessarily get notification, say somebody has a windfall in income and no longer applies for that after 10 years. There's no incentive for them to come back and tell us about that until, again, the property is sold or
I like
something like that. The only thing that comes in here is maybe an additional piece of this. Should we include language to allow, so an example would be after, let's say 10 years, somebody's been deferring for 10 years, how the statute reads is, let's say the property is sold, or for whatever reason. That entire 10 years becomes due at once,
Plus interest.
plus interest.
The 10 years of interest.
Yes, whatever's out.
No, we changed the policy.
No, this is still 10 years of interest is all that would accrue.
Yep.
well, this is the policy we're talking about, so we want
Yeah.
infinite
So-
interest.
I want infinite interest, just like,
So-
up to 30 years,
But
just like,
I thought we were not doing that for financial hardships.
correct.
Just in the hardship section.
Got it.
Yep,
Yeah,
so-
We're just talking about financial hardships.
Let's say somebody's deferred for 10 years, they sell the property, or let's say they come into a windfall of money. Would we allow them to have an option to recertify and have a 10-year assessment again, charge interest on the 10 years? Or is it that
I
10
would.
years is due?
As long as
Or should we
everything-
address it on a one-by-one
And
basis?
as long as
that
they
person has to
meet the
come to council?
hardship guidelines, each and every one of those 10 years.
Right.
They have to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because that's a application.
Right.
And so we're saying to continue to complete the application,
Yep.
even after the 10 years, to make sure that
Yes.
you qualify for the hardship.
So after
We'd
10
hope
years,
after
if
10
they
years
know,
would come.
let's say somebody had $10,000 of outstanding assessment.
Yep,
After 10 years, they no longer qualify to have it deferred.
It's due,
It would become due all at once, $10,000.
plus interest.
Plus, let's just say it's 10,000
Yep.
for easy math. Would we allow them the option to
They don't-
recertify over the next 10 years?
On
Not on a hardship, because they don't meet the guidelines anymore.
Okay,
so if they make $1 more than meeting the guidelines, they have to pay the $10,000 up front.
correct.
But we always allow an application to come to the council. In that case, $1, we might,
Right.
the
So-
council may, but they have to apply.
That would be something that we can allow on a one-by-one basis. you know, we don't have this in the policy, but you are welcome to ask the council
Yeah.
to
Yep.
certify another 10-year.
That's correct, 'cause if their
Spread.
property is $1,000 over the minimum, or their income's $100 over the minimum, it's like, well, they're still, right there, we can't expect them to have $10,000 right now.
So that's the hardship section. The new section is the unimproved property, so a lot of this language we took kind of right out of the statute. One provision that isn't, is in regards to splits. So really, a lot of the language is in regards to splitting by plat. But what we have seen, especially on one of the Beaver Dam properties that we're going to be addressing here shortly, is if somebody splinters out a small piece, that doesn't necessarily qualify where they have to subdivide by plat. We've changed the language in here that the deferred assessment becomes split to both properties. Now, you can look at how this kind of triggers in two different ways. So in the statute, it's just by plat, but here in this language, we have it anytime that property is split, not just by plat, the assessment gets split.
And becomes due.
And becomes due. So here's where I'm looking kind of a little bit more for council direction too, is you can look at it two different ways. You can continue to defer, like let's say they splinter off a small piece so somebody can build a.
They own 40 acres, they sell 2 acres.
Correct. You can put the 2 acres and assess the 2 acres and then defer the other 38 because it's unimproved, 38 acres, you know, and the majority of, let's say, $80,000. Or you can make that become due. Because the other way to look at it is they're starting to improve their property by splintering that off. So you can look at it at two different ways.
Yeah, what do you say, Kelly?
I think they should still be able to defer the 38 in that instance.
So when they split it off for development, that percentage of the land
Is due.
is due at that time.
And they've got to split the parcel too. They have to split the legal description.
Okay.
Okay.
Is there any guidance you'd like to give on, I don't know, we also might have to be addressed one by one. To what point does it like trigger, all right, now you have become an improved
Yeah,
property?
once you're over 28, once you're over half developed, just pay
Then it's triggered?
something like that. I think
That sounds fair.
half's a good starting point.
The other part that's missing, Jesse, which is going to prohibit me from supporting this evening, is there's nothing in here as far as deferments on improved property, which we have up and down Riverside Drive. We've gone through this, and those are the people that are the problems. The pursuant to petition and pursuant to council action are both misleading because they both include, here's the first sentence: the city does not construct municipal utilities outside of its corporate boundaries until such time as, okay, we know that's not true. We've got them all, we've got people outside of the city of Brainerd in the middle of Riverside Drive that aren't in the city. And the sewer goes right by and they didn't have to annex because they're not in the city.
Right.
So you need a section on, and this is the most important one, the one that's missing, is deferments on improved properties. We just had a guy, to say the sewer doesn't go past our, only goes in the city of Brainerd is a misnomer. Right? You gotta include the people who are outside the city of Brainerd who just hook up like the guy did 2 years ago, or the people who are, we said we're not gonna force you to annex, but when your sewer fails or your septic system fails, you have to hook up.
Right.
Crow County is starting to cooperate with that. Some of those people are already talking to us. You need that section. That's the critical section because that's the point where we have to put a value on that amount based on per project, based on comparable as to what somebody paid who was in the city of Brainerd, plus interest on the whole time, because we wanted to encourage them to sign up to come in. There's what we call the Sheeler Gambit, where we wanted them in the city of Brainerd, and we wanted them to hook up, and we didn't want them to have the half-price zoning. But you understand what's missing from this, and that really needs to be in there.
So I can clarify that, why that's not necessarily in here. So Riverside Riverside being a previous project, we're going to come back with another piece to
It's not just Riverside.
No, because that's all the way out to the airport.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Right,
pipes.
so those previous projects we can address on a one-by-one basis for those previous projects. For the policy here, it's more for projects moving forward. And for that part of it, the policy as it's written now, currently, doesn't have a provision. How do I frame this? The way the policy is written now is for like a utility extension project, for example. The way it's written now is we don't really establish a connection charge anymore like it was, 20 years ago for Riverside. You would be annexed in, and then your assessment would be placed on your property, or you would be deferred until such time that you would connect. And we do have the provisions in our code.
But it might happen again, east of town. We've got hit and miss stuff all up and down Easy Street and all that stuff that some people are in, some people are not in. So to say it, going forward, we're gonna do it that way?
For the extensions, yeah. And
Yeah, it
we-
may not be, that might be a pipe dream, because not everybody's gonna wanna do it. And we're gonna wanna do it. If half the people want it, we're gonna wanna do another Riverside. We may want to, I shouldn't say we're gonna.
And that'll be up to the council. This is just how this
Yeah.
policy is written is,
Yeah.
if we do an extension project,
Mr. Chair, I can live with this the way it is, based on, but we still have to fix
right.
the third situation. And with the understanding that it will be our policy going forward as well,
Right.
not just on those projects. To
And
make it
James-
easier on future councils.
And James and I have talked a little bit about Riverside already and trying to come up with a plan to bring something to the council to at least address Riverside. There's gonna be more down the pipeline of Wonderland Park
Right.
and so on and so forth, but at least just to address Riverside to start with and then move forward. So we've talked a little bit about this, and then there's already an item on this agenda to address part of that process, but we just wanted to address at least this part of it with this policy to keep this for projects moving forward. But for the other parts like Riverside, we'll address those for like the annexation.
So as written here, Jesse, we're allowing the hardships to continue to apply. And then once they don't meet it, they can come to the council and say, plead their case why they're still real close.
If they want to spread it over another 10 years,
Yeah.
essentially. Yep.
And then on the unimproved, how it's written here, does that address the 2 acres off the 40?
No.
So
Yeah.
it will need to be changed
Okay,
to allow them to continue to defer the larger.
It may not be the larger, just say the unimproved portion.
There you go.
Because they may take, on the 40 acres, they may take 30 and
right, and have a 10-acre outlot.
have a 10 acre outlet.
So that part,
Yeah.
we would
Okay.
like the council
And
to
once,
adjust.
what did we say, once 50%, no, right, so the 50% would take care of, so you'd have to, you could only defer, on the 40 acre example, you could only defer up to 19%. Or, no, I'm sorry, 49%.
Yeah.
And then once you've hit 50, then
Once you hit 50, then
Once
it's,
you,
then you
it's all
consider it
good.
improved.
once you sell it, paying for that 20th acre, you're paying for all 40.
And we
and I'm
can-
glad
we
you
can
put
correct
in
the
there
policy accordingly.
that it's gotta be paid when it's sold. So we don't have that problem, you make me cry again.
You got a motion, Kevin?
So moved, Kelly.
Second.
All right.
We don't have all day,
So
Kelly.
the motion and the second is to direct staff to go back to address when
Yep.
unimproved
Mr.
parcels
Chair, I
are
think we
divided.
could conceivably vote on that tonight. Or do we have to, do we only do this once? Is this a one-shot deal, Jesse, or does
It's
it?
policy.
It's a policy.
It's a policy.
Then we,
This is up to you if you want to see it again, or if you're okay with making the motion with the
I
approved
don't see
changes.
why we can't vote on it.
I would vote on it this evening.
Okay, well then let's make, the motion is then to approve the policy with the one change of addressing how larger unimproved parcels are divided.
And the hardship part where they can apply a second to it.
That's already there.
That's included.
That's it. Okay.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Jesse. Next up is a real quick review of the municipal cannabis dispensary proposals. James?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is an agenda item for council to review the proposals for a municipal dispensary partnership. No action is needed as council elected to not move forward with the licensing at this time for a municipal dispensary. The company submitting the proposals did indicate to staff that they are still interested in a potential future partnership. However, the terms and conditions may change. So the council can review it. There are some slight differences between either one of them. These have been the two groups that have probably approached the city the most, so.
Right, it looked like one was promising a 25% of revenue model, and the other one was gonna operate it at a fixed fee.
Yep.
And give us 100% after.
Yeah,
they
and
get
they're
their fixed
indicating
fee.
that part, the 25% model may have issues with state statute and laws, so, giving this time to see how other ones are operating, may be beneficially legality-wise for the city.
Assuming they ever open the application process.
But there is some money that can be made in these, you are correct,
You know.
potentially.
Potentially, as long as people don't stop smoking pot.
I
I
I
haven't
think
changed
that's
my
an
mind.
increasing one, actually.
So any questions from?
I don't think so, thanks, James.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is insurance renewal. Connie?
Yeah, so we have Nate Oland and Kelly Machi is online to discuss our 2025-26 renewal. So I'll turn it over to them.
Thank you, Connie. Committee members, council members, and staff. Let me just say that West Niagara Eagle is proud to represent the taxpayers and financial stewardship that you've entrusted with us for the city of Brainerd. I'm a city resident that take it very seriously. There's three factors that go into your insurance premium every year, and I can go as deep on this as you want, but the first is the rates, the second is the exposure, and the third is your claims experience. The League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust is very healthy. They've actually got a rate decrease, which is not common in today's property casualty world, so that's a good thing. The exposure you guys have has gone up a little bit. Building values have gone up. You have 7 more vehicles than last year. The more you have to insure, right? That affects premium. And the third is claims, whether they're from the public, whether they're from employees, whether they're vehicle accidents, etc. And your claims experience is very good. I'd say above average, but yet everybody still has some room for improvement until the culture is zero. So with that said, overall, there was a budget forecast for insurance, and it's very close to, but not quite at budget. Unfortunately, the trust has dividends this year. After that, I can go as deep as you want into in the details on this, or I'm here for you all the time.
I have no questions.
I have no question.
I just wanted to state that we did add coverage for the RFB signs
Yes, we did.
per the October 21st council meeting. And then our,
Now I have questions.
Yeah.
yes,
Are we gonna replace that RFP sign on Oak Street anytime soon?
I would have to ask Jesse on
All
that.
right, well,
But that one won't be covered under insurance because it was occurred before we had a coverage, but yes.
The RFP signs will have 5 signs have a $5,000 deductible. I'm
Yeah.
not sure the value of those.
I like
They're
that.
over,
Yeah.
yeah. The other thing what do we have coverage for cybersecurity? I know we went through training last year and I think we were able to get that back up to have an optional cyber.
Yes, I want to give a shout out to Sean Strong and those of you involved in taking the training. Sean did a nice job with that. The limit was increased from $250,000 to $500,000. The trust is looking at next year increasing limits, but will also require some additional training in cybersecurity risk management to be eligible for higher limits because they're seeing more claims.
That's our largest increase percentage, is the cybersecurity.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's almost 50.
What about these street performers, No, I'm serious. We're gonna consider that later on. Guys juggling with a monkey on a unicycle, falls over, cracks his skull. He's got a permit from the city of Brainerd saying it's okay to juggle with a unicycle and a monkey. And turns out we don't know if he was doing anything he shouldn't have.
But he didn't know how to do it.
He was terrible. Smelled like pot. Oh wait, that's
Do
legal.
we cover the monkey too?
Well, Councilman Bevins, it's a good question, because anybody can sue anybody for anything these days.
Got it.
The league has defense for you.
Do we have insurance for that, for street performers?
There's no street performer exclusion, and you do have event liability insurance.
Okay.
It's simple, just don't allow it, then we don't have to worry about it.
Well, that may be where we go. Who knows?
That's an option.
We got enough
I'm ready to make a
performers
motion.
downtown on every
Just
other day.
A very quick shout out to, we work with about 14 different cities and municipalities, and the staff here sets the bar. whether it's what Connie does and Jesse does to keep track of the ongoing exposure changes with properties, Nick and the culture he's creating with safety and risk management, Mike Habekhorst and what he's doing to review claims that occur monthly, Sean with IT, and I mean, there's a lot to surround between the city and the public utilities. And we just want to thank you for your cooperation and really buying into that risk management culture.
And I give a shout out to Kelly. She's wonderful. You were wonderful work too, but I work with Kelly more, so.
Let's give it to Kelly, she's amazing.
She is.
Thank you.
Move to accept the renewal.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the renewal. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Any reason you guys see that we would need our insurance agents upstairs for the full council?
Can't imagine.
You're free for the night.
You do. Go watch basketball. You're not free.
Yeah, good.
Don't
Okay.
fall down the steps on the way out.
Thank you,
Thank
Kelly.
you, Kelly.
Kelly, you have to stay though.
This Kelly's out of here.
Okay, next up is consider waiving council approval for grant applications for the water treatment plant as requested by the wastewater treatment management board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, this is a request. This is coming before council at the request of this joint board. This is the Brainerd Baxter Board for water treatment. Basically, current policy is that any grant more than $5,000, we need to notify the council and get authority to apply for that grant. When we had this meeting, the most recent meeting with the wastewater treatment plant board, it was pointed out that there may be instances coming up with the wastewater plant where we're gonna have limited notice for grant applications. So the board is requesting council to consider an exemption to the grant policy as it relates to the wastewater treatment plant. So I think the council is really only limited here by your imagination. Number one, you could make no changes, leave the policy as is. Number two, you could have a carve out for the wastewater treatment plant and authorize staff to apply for those grants administratively. Option three, as we talked to some of the other department heads, we could waive the dollar amount and we could just bring things to council if they meet some criteria, such as if the grant will create a new asset, a park, a vehicle, equipment, bridge, etc. If a required match is not included or cannot be absorbed into the budget, things of that nature. So really, we're only limited by the council's imagination here. Do you want to carve out just a wastewater treatment plant? Do you want to make no changes, or do you want, it's a la carte. You guys can approve whatever you want to approve. If you want to have the staff administratively apply for grants, I think in most cases, if not all cases, I can't think of a case where we apply for a grant, where we obligate any funds. We are not obligated when we apply for a grant. So.
Most grants have a match component, many do.
Right, but if we apply, if we get accepted, we could still choose not to participate in the grant.
Right, and then we look bad, yeah.
Exactly, so that's a risk, but.
I like the idea of letting staff just administratively take care of it. And then like Nick said, if we get it and we don't like it, we don't have to take it. It gives them the authority to do that.
Plus, I would presume as part of that, they'll FYI us.
Yeah.
We're applying.
Correct.
If the council goes the way that you're suggesting, if a grant comes in, I will probably talk to the appropriate chair and say, hey, we got a grant here, do you have any issues, we're gonna apply for it. I mean,
I would
to the greatest
declare
extent possible.
myself the appropriate chair on every single grant application.
I don't have a problem with that.
No,
You
so
do
I
a
make
good
that a
job.
motion.
Yep, second that. You have to call Gabe, and then he won't answer and we'll call you back, so.
You gotta send a text.
Yeah, thanks.
So basically, we're not doing 1, 2, or 3, we're doing something completely different.
But we'll see what the motion is. I think I understand it, but I just,
So the motion is to authorize staff
Amend the policy.
to amend the policy to,
Allowing for exemptions for grants for the wastewater treatment plant as long as, for a specific purpose. You wanna go a timeline? 6 months? 6 months?
Confused.
so I'm hearing two different things.
yeah, I think Kevin was saying, I never want to hear about a grant again as long as I'm on the council.
So I think we're doing option number 3 with the exemption of adding in that the staff shall obtain explicit approval. We should change that to be approval by city administrator and our PNF chair.
Yeah.
Unless it does these things.
Can it just be have the city administrator work with the chair of PNF
That's kind
for
of
grant
what-
applications?
Yeah.
Meant.
Yeah,
But I think
for
you should
all
put a
grants.
time thing on.
Get rid of the $5,000 and just
Yeah.
say, we'll work together and I'll,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
but can we revisit this in 6 months?
Whatever you can.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I think we should revisit it with each new council. You're not
Exactly.
always gonna
Yeah.
have personnel and finance chairs, Martha.
Right. That's true.
So I'll
Could be
include
smarter,
review in
too.
6 months.
Yeah.
That's a motion.
Yep.
Okay, I'll accept that motion to amend the policy to obtain explicit approval from the city administrator and chair of personnel finance.
Yeah.
And further to review this in 6 months.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that motion carries. Okay, we
Yeah.
got that one down. Approve voluntary demotion of Mitch Lackelt to journeyman line worker position. Chris?
Oh, Chris is back.
Yes. So we advertised for both our journeyman lineman and our apprentice line worker positions. We received 12 applications for the journeyman and 68 for the apprentice line worker. After reviewing all of the applications, it was determined that our current electric distribution supervisor, Mitch Lackelt, was the most qualified. He worked as a journeyman lineman for us for 5 years before he was promoted to this current electric distribution supervisor position. To give you a little bit more history, after the positions were posted, Mr. Lackelt submitted his application, and then he informed the management team that he does not feel that his current management role is the right fit for him. He is requesting a voluntary demotion to his previous position. Per our council guidance, for initial step placement, the highest step that staff can offer someone is step 4. He is asking for step 6. So at this point, the Public Utilities Commission at their March 25th meeting recommended that Mr. Lackelt be reclassified and that he be placed on step 6 based on his qualifications. They also recommended that the council authorize backfilling his current electric distribution supervisor position internally, and if no qualified candidates apply, to proceed with an external posting.
Was Mitch on step 6 before we promoted him?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
So there are a couple of recommended actions. One is to approve his voluntary demotion, as we've talked about, and also backfill
Can we do them
that
all
position.
together? Yeah, I moved to approve the step 6 and the start the backfill.
All right, second that.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, that motion carries.
And that would be effective tomorrow. Okay.
Next up is an MOU extending the time frame along
We
IBEW.
missed one.
No.
Oh, no, we want a Public Utilities Department full-time laborer position. Chris, tell me about it.
So the Public Utilities Department has determined that there are some needs throughout all of their divisions for coverage, and that needs are custodial maintenance and grounds management. They are asking that the council allow hiring of an additional laborer for flexibility instead of the facilities custodian position that they originally had budgeted for. So that is the recommended action, to authorize staff to begin the hiring process for a full-time laborer for the Public
Is
Utilities.
this the guy that goes to the bank?
No.
Okay,
No, that's the
different guy.
meter reader.
I so move on the motion.
Second. Is this one of the guy, Chris, that was
Our
proposed?
labor helps with every
No,
crew. He
no,
also-
was it proposed in the budget that they just presented to us?
As a custodian, and now they're
Okay.
switching it to a laborer.
Got it. Yep.
Which is, the budget effect says NA, but I can't imagine
the
they're the exact same step,
No,
or the exact same
less.
class.
The labor is less.
The labor is saving a little bit of money, okay. Any discussion after that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, that motion carries. 8, approve the MOU extending the time frame along IBEW to work at the hydro facility. Chris?
Yes, so the United Steelworkers Union has agreed to extend the memorandum of agreement allowing the IBEW Public Utility Department employees to temporarily perform work at the hydro facility. Previous extensions were to 12/31 of '24 and April 1st of '25. We have now negotiated another extension. The union has asked that we only go to May 1st. So they have signed this extension. They believe we should be able to negotiate a contract before that date, and we have negotiations settled or set with them for April 21st.
How many left?
How many people are left? One at this point. And then when we automate, we'll figure out what we need and if there'll be steelworker employees, what will happen at that point. So asking that we approve the MOA. I should tell you the IBEW union has signed off on this MOA over the weekend.
So moved.
Second.
What have we been doing the last 6 days?
The steelworkers had approved it beforehand.
So we did have,
Yes.
since they approved it, we were over there,
Right.
the
It is-
IBEW was over there working.
Right, it's a steelworkers facility, so if they allowed it, it was allowing other, the other.
Okay, and then we have a negotiating session scheduled with Steelworker on April 21st. And if we don't get anything finalized that day,
That night.
we could ask for another month or something, hopefully.
Yes.
Okay. Do we get a motion to approve?
Yeah,
And a second?
we did it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
yes.
That motion carried. Authorize a request for proposals to obtain plan design proposals for pricing quotes for private MN paid family and medical leave options. Chris?
The Minnesota Paid Family and Medical Leave Law is scheduled to go effect on January 1st. The city of Brainerd as an employer is subject to that law, and information about the law was attached in your packet. This law allows employers the option to elect to either utilize the state administered plan or a private plan offered by insurance carriers that are approved by the state. The private plan offering must meet or exceed the state plan. Staff has discussed this concept with our ancillary benefits broker, Bill Dahmer, from Integrity Benefits, and we recommend that the council authorize conducting an RFP to obtain plan design proposals and pricing quotes for a private option. Bill is online if there are any questions. One thing that we want to make sure you're aware of is that the RFP will reflect there is not a time commitment to stay with the private plan beyond that initial year. Therefore, the city could switch to the state plan beginning in the second year, 2027, after the state plan is fully operational. We did have a sample RFP in the packet. Also, just to give you a little bit more information, this state law, right now the premium is set to be 0.88% of payroll. So right now, the employer must pay at least 50%. The employee can pay up to 50%. We have to talk about that with the unions. We are hoping by utilizing this plan, we might get a reduction in that premium amount. And the reason why that may occur is because these insurance carriers are working with other plans in other states. Minnesota is the 13th state to enact this law. So they're already doing this in other areas, so.
And potentially the least efficient government out of all.
Right. We don't know if the state will be ready by January 1st. It'll be administered just like unemployment. An employee would have to file a claim, and then the state would have to reply in a timely communication. So concerns about that as well.
I move we go for RFPs as proposed.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. With that motion.
Am I wrong?
Anything else? I don't, not yet.
Okay.
Anything else to come before the committee tonight? Then we're adjourned. We got about 7 minutes to go.